Welcome, residents, to Dr. DC Podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello. Yes. I would also like to welcome you to Dr. DC Podcast.
I mean, that's not wrong.
Dropping the is weird. I think the has to be.
Yeah, but it's cleaner.
Yeah, drop the.
Yeah, it's Yukon. Welcome to Yukon.
I fucking hate you so much.
It's English, proper English.
I think I'll be the judge of that.
Name one reason. Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice modulation,
Yeah.
baby.
I was in a real goofy mood this morning. Lick? It's awful that that's like just a thing we say.
We were buying like birthday supplies for my daughter's upcoming birthday, and I saw a paper plate that had Goofy on it, and I was like, nope.
Gotta make sure you lick your plate.
I think there's also because I saw some TikTok or whatever that was like, Disney goes out of its way to not have you think of their characters sexually.
Yes.
You know, like there's Donald Duck is the uncle to Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Like it's always like that kind of shit. Except for Goofy, he has a son. Goofy fucks.
That's so funny. It's true.
Yeah.
To the max.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I hope not.
Well, not
Jesus.
to max.
Good Lord.
To get max. That's when you get to the
get
max.
Jesus.
I mean, it's a
what the fuck?
That's
fucked. That's so fucked. That's fucked.
Oh, you're so fucked. Oh.
I can't do it. I was going to try and do Donald that way.
Yeah, that's just Donald coming. Look, just because Mickey doesn't have a...
All right, Donald. 3, 2...
Oh my... Just because Mickey has a girlfriend.
It's the worst, like, impressionist ever. It's like, this is Donald Duck coming.
All right, now here's Goofy coming.
This is Bob Hope coming.
Here's Mickey coming. Whoa!
It'd be funny if they weren't all cartoon characters, though. This is Matthew McConaughey coming. You see that?
All right. Nice.
All right.
Here's a Power Ranger coming. Yeah! Oh!
It's Morphin time.
So we got a review.
Oh, nice. I'm going to be haunted by that now that I've done that on the mic.
Yeah, fucking that what is the coagula? Just like
a cloaca.
Cloaca's blasting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
5-star review number 205.
Okay.
Spotify/email from Mara, who says, "You guys are pretty cool."
Thanks.
That's what we shoot for.
Pretty middling review.
Yep. I just wanted to send a little note to you guys to say that I found the Dr. DC podcast in 2022 and have been loving it.
Oh, that's nice.
It was my top listened to podcast last year on Spotify. See attached. I have enjoyed DC content for a long time and wanted to find an overall DC podcast that didn't focus on just one character or show. I tried out an episode to make sure it wasn't not too bro-y. I mean, definitely not this podcast.
Yeah, we only just made a bunch of characters come.
We're pretty like woke.
We're welcoming.
Yeah, this is a diverse and feminine. Whoa! Gulp.
Jesus Christ! Why is he gulping? No.
I'll never tell. Or gatekeeper-y.
Clarabelle, let me suck on your udders.
Jesus.
I'm so sorry.
Also,
I'm so sorry.
also, there was this close to being like, "You want the moon?" I'll come a rope around it and tow it down for you. Also, do you know that Goofy's nemesis is a cat?
Oh, really?
That big guy is a cat.
What, Pete the cat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all of their nemesis.
But I didn't know he was a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, Pete the cat.
Yeah. And thank you for
Or Stinky Pete. It
yes.
might be his name
Yeah, I
or
think
something
that's
like
what it
that,
is.
yeah.
And love that you explain things in a simple but not dumbed down way. I also love that you bring in a variety of guests from different backgrounds to get different perspectives. It will be sad if 2023 is, in fact, #last year of the podcast.
Yet to be seen.
But I appreciate all the content you've made so far. Anyway, just wanted you to know that you folks, like, yeah, we're still good. It's still going.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh man, I missed all that gold.
Yeah, all of the coming characters. Anyways, just wanted you to know that folks like me enjoy your award-winning content. I especially like when you feature John Constantine, Batwoman, Batgirl, and Nightwing. Keep up the good and a bit ridiculous work, Mara.
I don't know what you mean.
Name one ridiculous.
Name one time we've been ridiculous. I defy you.
Hey, what's up, cock?
Oh no, not bugs. Be very quiet. I'm a fucking weapon. Oh no.
All
Oh
right.
no.
Thanks, Mara.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, mommy.
I'm sorry, Mara.
Sorry, mommy.
No,
Mara.
I'm not calling
Sorry,
anyone
Mara.
mommy.
Mara, sorry.
Yeah. Mara,
Sorry.
Mara,
Sorry.
sorry.
Well, it is year one of listening to this podcast for Mara, and the theme this week is year one as well.
It's the 365th episode.
Holy shit.
And that is like the number of days in a year. So
Thematically,
it's if this was daily, then it'd be
you can you can now listen to one episode every single day in a year.
I mean,
I think someone should do that.
technically more than that, but
Include specials.
all the specials and annuals.
Okay,
and
but
stuff,
someone should just listen to the regular episodes and listen to one episode every.
I mean, isn't Mullet Overlord doing like a re-listen of
yeah,
the
but
whole
not one
show?
a day.
Oh, okay. At any rate,
So restart.
We're
Mullet
we're
Overlord.
talking about year one.
That's right.
There's a bunch of stories in DC called Year One. They're always like, as you might expect, early exploits and adventures of different characters.
Love exploited content.
That's not what I mean. And yikes. But yeah, so we're just talking year one stories. We got a bunch of questions for this.
So why don't we get into that?
Sorry, before we leap in,
Yeah.
have you read any year
Batman.
one stories? You've read Batman Year One?
Yeah.
And you've seen the
Special,
like the animated movie
Yeah,
of
it's
it
good.
too.
I like
yeah.
it. Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's
Yeah.
dope. All right. Let's start with Facebook.
Go to the face in the book, going to the Facebook. Man, I got weirded out there because the Facebook song is very close to how I'd get into a goofy voice. Go to the face in the book, going to the Facebook. I'm going to book all over your face. Jesus. I'd like to apologize to the Disney Corporation
I mean, yeah, if anything.
in advance of what I imagine is pending litigation.
Yes, absolutely. First question and only question from Facebook comes from Braden Ketty, who asks, what is the difference between Batman Year One and Batman 0 Year? Do they take place in the same continuity?
So, Batman Year One is a Frank Miller book. And in general, all of the Frank Miller kind of stuff is sort of its own universe.
Yeah.
That includes The Dark Knight Returns.
The Dark Knight?
Have you seen The Dark Knight? It includes like All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. That includes Superman Year One. All the Dark Knight Strikes Again, all that stuff. Batman Year One, I think the reason it's a little less Millery.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like broader. So I think even if it technically isn't another continuity, it's broad enough, and you're fighting like it's Falcone is in it, and Commissioner Loeb, the corrupt commissioner before Gordon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you're getting all these characters in there that, yeah, maybe technically it's in another continuity, but it's sort of like it has the sort of potential of Killing Joke, which is like we're gonna make some of these things part of the canon. You know what I mean? So I think you can look at Batman Year One even still as like more or less like an early Batman adventure.
Mm-hmm.
The specific like, is this the first year? Is this what happened to him? That has been disputed or changed through different continuity shifts and stuff like that. And 0 Year is one of them. So in the New 52, there was this event called Zero Year.
Yeah.
It's called that because in the New 52, they were trying to keep things on like a really tight track and keep track of when in the timeline things would happen.
And they did such a good job.
Well, so Darkseid invades and the Justice League comes together, and that is like the start of what they would call, for example, Year One.
Sure.
And then 5 years later is the main continuity of the New 52. So everything that happened in the New 52,
sure,
like
yes.
when it started, happened within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's like an explosion of meta-human activity and all this kind of stuff. So 0 Year was meant to say what happened before that.
Yeah.
So it was a Batman story, and it went all the way through like him coming back and donning the bat, and he fought the Red Hood gang, and then he fought Dr. Death, which is an homage to a very, very old Batman adversary. He fights the Riddler. He ends up, we're going through all of these different things that forge him into Batman.
Yeah.
And that was called 0 Year. And it was essentially doing what, quote, Year One stories do, which is like tell you the early adventures. I think what the key difference is that he's becoming Batman in this one. And usually in the Year One thing, it's like you've done it, but
now it's
early
like the initial,
adventures, That's a hair split. But the big difference is the continuity piece. That is like a New 52 story.
Yeah.
Things have opened up a bit. And like I said, Batman Year One was never 100% canon anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it's totally fair now to look at it as a sort of just broadly, if not his actual first year. The early adventures of Batman, as we know, are generally mob adventures,
Mm-hmm.
and Long Halloween, also not canon.
Okay.
Specifically. But again, that idea that there is a transition from mob villains and organized crime to super villains.
Yes.
And that happens. And I think you can take those broad strokes things and you can still basically take Batman Year One and go like, this is roughly what he would have been doing early on before there's a Mr. Freeze, before there's a, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's totally reasonable. So now that the continuity's opened up again, post Death Metal and Dark Crisis and all that kind of stuff, I think you can more or less take bits of both. That there was probably like the Riddler shutting down Gotham, the 0 Year thing that happened, but that you could insert that maybe into like, and this is the rise of supervillains.
Sure, yeah.
Versus I've been like beating up mobsters and stuff up until this point,
100%.
Continuity is pretty fluid. I think you just gotta
like gender.
You gotta read it as you will until someone tells you specifically, no, that didn't happen, or yes, this did happen, or it happened like this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Twitter.
Twitter.
Gulp.
Yikes!
You were drinking.
I know, but now I don't want to.
You will, though.
Oh,
before this night is through.
Oh. tune into the Double Dose this week.
That's right. Who knows what's coming?
Well,
I have one idea.
Yeah, who knows whether or not I show you that image on my phone.
Oh my God, yes. All right. First question comes from Nameless Nerd Talk, who asks, what do you think of the more mob-type villains being antagonists for Batman in his year one? And do you think it makes sense for his more super villains not to show up until year 2 or 3?
I mean, you are someone who's read both Batman Year One and Long Halloween.
Yep.
Now, those two books aren't specifically connected to each other.
But there's a vibe,
but, again, there's a vibe and there's sort of a rough thing. Look, what's your take on that trajectory for Batman?
For me, it makes the most sense because I think like up until Batman arrives in Gotham, it's just like I like the idea that it was like he doesn't show up because there are supervillains. And because why would supervillains need to exist if there was just regular law enforcement? I think it makes the most sense logically to me that it's like, oh, a guy shows up and has like a bunch of fucking like equipment and is like a bat. That it's like, well, if you can't just survive as like a mobster. The first year is like, yeah, he's taking out the mob side. It's like, well, crime's not going to stop. It's just going to elevate. Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like that's the whole theory behind like why you decriminalize rather than like reinforce. Right. Because it's like when you buy fucking tanks for like police forces, it doesn't reduce crime, it just like escalates the type of crime that you get.
Sure. Yeah.
And so for me it's like, yeah, it makes the most sense. Like but the story of Batman should not be one that you're like, oh, that's a good idea. No, it's a guy who's got way too many resources and has lost his fucking mind, and due to trauma he does a bad thing for a good reason.
I also think stuff could be two things. Like I think what I like about this idea of like the mob to supervillain transition is that Batman shows up and he says, I can't fight this thing normally. I've got to use, theatricality and deceit, like all of those kind of things. And he does it and it works.
Yes.
But there's the counter argument in comics and stuff like that Batman is the genesis point of his own villains. And I think both things can be true.
Yeah.
He found a way to beat a system, to make change in a system that was inherently corrupt.
But then you can't just
but you can't just expect that to just
stay
for them to just take it lying down. I mean, that's the whole, if you want to talk about things inspired by Batman Year One and The Long Halloween, you look at the Nolan movies, and that's the entire premise of that. They go after the mob's life savings and they unleash the Joker.
Yeah.
And it's that, you can't expect them to just take it.
Exactly. And so I love that. I think that like makes the most sense to me, that it's just like the more he ratchets up, the more the level of his villains ratchet up. It makes the most sense to me. And the bigger, more attention that you're drawing, you then get fucking like gods that show up because you're making such a goddamn racket down there on Earth.
Well, and this is the other piece too, is, we talk about this in DC a lot, that it's like mythology. We're talking about these things that are like bigger than real people.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, Batman, that's part of the in-continuity thing, is that he's trying to be more than a man, right? And I think there is something to the idea of like, maybe not literally, but like he's introduced the germ of an idea to Gotham.
Oh, yeah.
And Gotham answers it,
100%.
He's opened the gate and now you can't close it again. So now Gotham produces these things.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes it's literally like Batman knocks the Red Hood into a vat, he becomes the Joker. But it's also kind of like metaphysically, like, where rises the light, so too rises the dark.
Yeah.
Like a sort of like, there's kind of
balance in the universe type of
cosmic
thing.
kind of like
I think
thing
it's all
happening
true.
there.
I think it's a multitude of reasons, but I like that.
I do too.
I think it makes the most sense to me, and I like that. Like, I mean, the reality is like 2 or 3. Sure, maybe it's year 5, but like,
if you were, it probably should take a bit longer, but
in comics,
essentially,
I love it.
Yeah, totally.
All right, next question from Nightwing Enjoyer, who asks, I wonder what kind of comics they like.
I don't know. I bet they hate Nightwing. Though.
Yeah, fucking idiot. Nightwing Enjoyer asks, how did you feel about Nightwing Year One? Not my favorite portrayal of Dick and Bruce's relationship, but I do really like how Clark and Dick interacted. Even if this version of Krypton's Nightwing isn't my favorite. I mean, we've talked a lot about this version of it and how we really love the Dick and Superman, like Clark relationship.
I love that Clark and Dick have a relationship.
Yeah.
So Nightwing Year One is not like an independent graphic novel.
Yep.
It takes place in Nightwing like 101 to 106.
Okay.
It's the Dixon run of Nightwing from
Yeah.
the 90s, 2000s or whatever.
Yeah. Is it sold as a separate trade now?
I think you could buy it as a like collected edition, but it just came out as issue. It was just an arc, like it was a flashback arc in the regular Nightwing comic.
Yeah.
So what he's talking about Bruce and Dick's relationship there is that basically Dick is it's been a while since I read this. Dick is like slightly off his game. He either shows up late or he like misses a detail or some shit like that. And Bruce goes, "This is too serious for these kind of shenanigans. You're fired." And he's like, "Get out of my..."
Oh.
He's like, "Get out of my cave," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it kicks off like Dick trying to find out like who he is and stuff like that. And in this arc, he does meet up with Superman, and Superman tells him this story about the Nightwing, which is a Kryptonian hero.
Yeah.
A later version of Nightwing and Flamebird, these Kryptonian heroes, is that they're more like godlike with powers. If I'm not mistaken, the one depicted here is just like a Kryptonian vigilante hero.
Sure.
I think.
Well, because like on Krypton, they don't have like superpowers, right? Like,
well, no, they don't. But in a later one, it's like that they're almost these like myth, like almost kind of like deity beings from Krypton.
Sure.
And we know Krypton has deities. There's Rao and shit like that. That later one, the Nightwing is like a shadow kind of character. This one, I think, is just a dude.
Okay.
At any rate, the parallel is something to do with losing family and stuff. Like, like it's, like, and our Nightwing has a path similar to yours or whatever. And at any rate, the idea is that Dick, because he's been kicked out of Batman's
like inner circle
world, he doesn't when he does take a new moniker, he doesn't take it from Batman.
Yeah, he's
even
not
though
something.
He has a quote later in this story that is something to the effect of like, "I never gave up on your mission.
Yeah,
but I'm going to do it my way." I'm heavily paraphrasing.
Yes.
And so it's that idea of like Nightwing is like a totally, like, as far as a brand goes, a totally adjacent sort of thing to Batman.
Yeah.
Nightwing. It makes sense. But I love that he gets it from Superman.
Yeah.
That it's like, you kicked me out. You got rid of me.
Also
someone else helped me find what inspires me about bringing hope, about, making my own family, about doing all this stuff. Now, the interesting thing about this story is that it almost entirely avoids the Titans.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas when Dick actually becomes Nightwing, that happens in the middle of the Judas contract.
Oh, wow.
It's like in that story, he's like, "I need to be something more," and he I'm Nightwing now. Like disco
similar
suit.
to what it's like in the TV show too. Yeah.
I think they might have. They might try to connect them in this story. I truly don't remember. So that I'm a little fuzzy on. But most of this arc, I'm pretty sure the Titans aren't in it.
Wow.
It's mostly just Dick on his own. I think you meet Jason Todd in this story. Like, Batman's right away. Like,
yeah.
I think Batman like slightly kidnaps Jason in this story. And Dick, I think, helps Jason as well. You know, in general, I don't hate it. Is Chuck Dixon my favorite writer? No. But like, I think it's like a fine story. The thing I like about it, though, the thing that stands out to me, though, is Clark and Dick.
Yeah.
That relationship is really cool. I love the idea of getting that inspiration for Nightwing from Superman, not from Batman. Yeah. I love that he's striking out on his own, but he's like, "I never quit the mission. You can kick me out if you want, but like, you taught me this." And I think that's also a vindication for Batman. He's like, "I know I'm a bad parent or whatever," but he's like, "But like, I believe in it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to do it my way because this is clearly not working," sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from our favorite religious representative.
Ooh, Chris Chan.
That's right, the one and only, who asks, "Put on your marketing hats." We just took them off.
Mine's always on. That's my secret. I'm always wearing my marketing hat.
Wow, cool.
ladies.
Should the words year one be retired? What's a better way to market stories about a character's first year?
I mean, here's the thing. Is there possibly a better phrase out there? Maybe. But at this point, why would you give up the brand equity?
It's true.
There are so many stories called Year One. It has its own kind of equity at DC, like the word crisis, or like saying secret origin, or at Marvel saying, whatever the fuck they say at Marvel. You know what I mean? Like there are these phrases that you kind of consolidate around, and they mean something. And it doesn't mean every story follows an exact template, but when you go like something year one, you go, I know exactly what I'm getting when I'm getting that, because I know of the ones that came before it. When there's something crisis, you go like, I know what I'm getting with that because of the ones that came before it.
Sure. But if we were going to have to, maybe something like Batman, My First Time, or Batman, Barely Heroes.
Oh no! Oh man!
You won't last 10 seconds watching Batman's.
You won't last
fight.
1 year. Yeah. Dark vigilantes in your area. Here's the thing. At this point, I wouldn't change it. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I would if we were at the start of it all.
I mean, unless you just call it
before Miller's
Origins,
Batman.
like,
yeah, but Secret Origins is already a thing at DC, and again, the Nightwing one is a weird example because that is him becoming Nightwing.
Yeah.
But in general, a year one story
or not them becoming
isn't necessarily like the origin.
Yes.
It's about the early. It's about that transition between I'm going to do the thing and then who do I become?
Yeah.
Like that's more what it's supposed to be. So that's tricky. I don't know what name I would give it.
Barely Heroes.
Good Lord.
All right, let's go to the next question.
You just hashtag ruined year one for me.
What?
I know I've said this before, and I really hate pumping your tires. You are looking so much like Pedro Pascal right now. It's becoming like unsettling.
Daddy.
I mean, you looked a lot like it when you just said that. I don't get how are you doing this?
This explains why I get any attention. I think
it's making more sense.
Or easy.
I couldn't possibly imagine how you.
I guess,
but I guess if they think you're someone else, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not you, then I can maybe understand it.
Yeah. Why are you crying?
God, I already got out of this relationship. I don't need to get back into it. All right. Last question on Twitter from my wife's boyfriend. My wife's boyfriend.
My wife's boyfriend.
Yeah. Something I'm called. Who asks, a lot of the year one stories are for characters that are already popular in mainstream.
Sure.
What character would you like to see get the year one treatment to push them more into mainstream popularity and have a more streamlined origin?
I'm going to make a rule for this one. You can't say Booster Gold.
That's fine. I have an answer.
Oh, and it wasn't Booster?
No.
Well, then I want to know.
Hawkman.
Really?
Yeah.
So wait. But like year one as Hawkman or like year one?
I think you kind of do both.
Right, sure. Yeah.
I think you make it like year one, but also
right.
the first year.
Yeah, that great movie, Year One.
I mean,
that amazing movie.
Oh, God. It had a lot of potential.
Did it?
It was standing on the backs of the fucking, what's his name?
Jack Black?
No, comedy. No. The comedy writer who does like the Schwartz and Spaceballs and.
That is not a Mel Brooks joint.
No, it's not. But I'm saying it's standing on the backs of Mel Brooks.
I think it's more like shitting on the
like
back
History of the World is what I mean. Like it's trying to like bring that out. I think.
I suppose. I don't like that you invoked Mel Brooks for that.
All right, but I think that's a character who needs a bit streamlining of its origin.
Technically not anymore, but yes, I know what you mean. Hawkman has a very storied,
But also,
confusing
like,
past.
for people who don't know and don't listen to this podcast, like, it's not an easy character to get into.
Sure.
I think it could deserve a year one.
So you want Hawkman year one, but it's every year one.
Yeah.
There's thousands of first years.
It's kind of fun.
I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I want to, but I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, that's almost what the Venditti run is.
Is it?
Because you check in with a bunch of past lives. Not the difference is you're not checking in with all of them as they get started doing whatever. But structurally, that Venditti run does a lot of what I think you would want to do in something like that, which is interesting.
Okay. What about you?
Oh, man. Year one. I think I'd want maybe like I mean technically this is just his first series, but I think I'd want like it done more as like one kind of graphic novel kind of story, but like Black Lightning.
Oh, sure.
Just tighten it up, like Black Lightning's original series is essentially his like, I have a quest, it's to get the 100 out of my neighborhood. It's, he's fighting Tobias Whale.
Sure.
Like I don't think it's vastly changed.
Yeah.
But I think, you tighten it up, you make it... Because there is a difference, in the way that Batman starts fighting mobsters. And there's a difference also for Jefferson between going from, like, teacher, get powers, fight gang, to being, like, a Justice Leaguer, to, like, entering the bigger world of what's my... I have a responsibility to my neighborhood. And then you go, like, what's my bigger responsibility to the city, to the nation, to the culture, you know what I mean? Like, I think there is like, you would end that book and you'd get the sense of the transition period that's coming, in the way that you get a sense that like things are going to change for Batman, or because that's the end of Batman year one, right? Is they're like, we got to look into this Joker guy. Like I think Black Lightning has a similar kind of thing you could do there. Be kind of interesting.
I'd love to see like some villain year ones.
Sure. That'd be fun.
Who'd be great is like a Waller year one.
I mean, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, Waller is a fascinating character because she's like...
But I also want to see how she got where
grew up in her city, like, but like, I think she like sees her like husband or someone like murdered and shit like that. She goes to college. She's like a genius. She like, not by duplicity or whatever. She like earns her fucking place.
Like, I don't want a fucking another Joker movie. Give me a Waller movie.
I mean, we're gonna get that Waller series.
No, but is that gonna be?
I don't know that it's necessarily gonna be, but like any of these shows, at some point you get some
origin
flashback, some origin piece. I'd be disappointed if we got to the end of Waller, no matter how good it is, and we don't get any of like, but where do you come from? Like, what? Why are you like this?
Exactly.
Like.
Fucking actress like that too. Holy shit.
Yeah, Viola Davis is such a powerhouse. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
All right, let's move on, and we are leaving Twitter and heading on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram. Take some questions and answer them.
First question comes from Ben Force Stewart.
I thought you were doing Jeff Bridges.
Comes from Ben Force Stewart.
I can't say anything other than R.I.P.D.
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 Ben Force Stewart.
It's so fucking dumb. That's so stupid.
Who asks, how do you feel about JLA year one retconning Black Canary into being a founding member of the team instead of Wonder Woman? Personally, I love it because Dinah is one of my favorite characters, but it seems like a really big risk to not include any of the members of the Trinity on that team.
So here's it's funny. I recently reread this like a few weeks ago.
Nothing to do with this.
Nothing to do with this. I found it somewhere, maybe at the dollar store even.
Oh, wow.
And read it again. So JLA year one. This is a post-crisis story, and it's talking about the first year of the Justice League.
Okay.
So there's a couple of things mentioned in this question that I want to address. So thing number one, post-crisis, one of the big changes made is that Wonder Woman is not a founding member of the Justice League. That her arrival from Paradise Island happens later than the Justice League.
Interesting.
So part of what that means is that they retcon early adventures that included Wonder Woman to have been Black Canary instead.
That's interesting.
So that's thing number one. Thing number two is they're talking about that, like, Batman and Superman. I mean, obviously Wonder Woman's not a part of this. We just talked about that. But Batman and Superman are also largely not a part of this story.
Weird.
This Justice League forms without them. That's also roughly how it plays out in Brave of the Bold 28 in the original first forming of the Justice League. Technically, Superman and Batman are part of the team, but Batman's like, I'm busy, and Superman's like, I'm somewhere else.
Oh.
And so the team that forms or whatever, because Brave and the Bold 28 isn't the team forming, it's just the first appearance of them. It's implied that they're already together.
Mm-hmm.
But in that story, you get Flash, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, and they fight Starro the Conqueror. That's the first appearance of the Justice League.
Wow.
Batman, I think, is in a couple of panels. Superman's in a couple of panels, but they're not part of the adventure. So JLA Year One is actually paying homage to that. That Superman and Batman are having their other adventures. They have been working together for a while. They've kind of got their own thing going on. So what JLA Year One is doing is, we're not retconning all of it. Superman wasn't there when they fought Starro. So we're going back and we're like retconning that this is the league that fought the Appalachians, that fought fought Starro the Conqueror, that came together, for all of these things. I find that stuff interesting. I like it as a setup. I think it's cool. I think it's a good way to honor the Silver Age. I think it's interesting. Is it weird to have Black Canary in there and not Wonder Woman? Yes, but less weird with Superman and Batman, less present. You know what I mean?
It does seem unlikely that in a world in which Batman and Superman exist, that a group like that forms and then fights invading like creatures that are like world destructive, and Batman and Superman are kind of not around.
Now, JLA Year One, Batman and Superman are around. Yeah. They're not there.
But you would think they would participate in things of that scale.
This team thing is...
You would think that they would show up for like the big event.
Yeah, they're less present than you would maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's the part where it falls apart a bit for me. Was like, yeah, fine if Black Canary is there and Wonder Woman is not. I'm less concerned with that. For me, it kind of falls apart a bit if Superman and Batman are sort of not participating, because then it's like, well, then you don't get to do the big stuff. Like, that's for Superman baseline.
Because they ask Superman to join the team in that book, and he says no, I think, initially. If I'm remembering. Black Canary in that book, there was still a separation between her and the Golden Age Black Canary. Okay. So they talk about her mom, and she has this connection to the JSA, which post-crisis they had been moved to be the earlier generation of heroes instead of being on another Earth. Yeah. So you get that kind of connection. The JSA is kind of like, I think these kids are going to figure it out. Like the Justice League. There's that kind of shit in there. They do a neat thing with Aquaman. Well, it's a sort of, I think it's a neat thing. Everyone's always telling him to speak up. And it's because sound travels easier in water. Oh. It's just like a little detail that's like, he talks like this, because if he talked at our volume underwater, it'd be like shouting.
Wow.
So he just talks like that. People are always like, huh? And he's like, he's that's like constantly having to, and he's even more than Martian Manhunter. He's the alien on the group.
Really?
People don't get him. He's got no sense of humor. He can't fit in. He is constantly tense and angry. He's tired of people like getting in his face or telling him to lighten up or whatever. Like, Aquaman is like an alien on that team.
Wow.
I find that very interesting. I think his dynamic is way weirder than the Black Canary one. Yeah, I think it's a cool book. It's a Mark Waid joint. Very well written. It's interesting. It's kind of more of a curio now than anything, because obviously things have been retconned again. Wonder Woman is a founding member of the League, all this kind of stuff. But it is neat to see, like, I do like, it's got a lot of homage. It's a lot of like you see you're drawing a thing that looks like the cover from the Silver Age. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of homage. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. I think if you enjoy that, if you enjoy Silver Age Justice League, then year one is so interesting to read. But yeah, it's more of a curio now than anything.
Totally. Next question comes from the real Josh Gill.
Oh my God.
I will say, Josh Gill's been very, very sweet to me lately, and I love you, Josh.
Yeah, and he's posted all that.
I mean,
Posted
Jesus
him in the
Christ.
gym. He's sweet to you, and I'm going to be hard on him.
I'm going to be sour.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll probably just be bitter. That's more my style.
Josh asks, should Deathstroke's year one have been better served to feature Nightwing instead of Green Arrow?
So, full disclosure,
Yeah.
I didn't read this arc. It's a relatively recent one. So, it was in...
So this is a villain year one. That's cool.
So, this is in Deathstroke Inc.
Okay.
So up until a certain point, that book was Deathstroke and Black Canary were working for this organization called Trust, and they were trying to break up basically like a fledgling secret society, and then Deathstroke just takes it over.
Oh, cool.
That leads straight into Dark Crisis, and Deathstroke being part of that, and like one of the main bad guys of that event. In the meantime, in the Deathstroke Inc. book, Ed Brisson took over as part of the creative team, and they wrote basically just a flashback story with Deathstroke year one.
Cool.
I don't know how prevalent Ollie is in it, but I do know he's in that story.
Okay.
And, part of that is, even through the New 52 and through the Rebirth run, Deathstroke, and frankly, even through it's a slight stretch, but there's enough kind of relationship between them, even in something like Identity Crisis or something like that. There's been a growing thing of Green Arrow and Deathstroke. I would never call them arch enemies. They don't belong to each other, but they cross paths a lot.
Yeah.
And there's, I think it's that thing of like people extremely proficient, extremely technical. Yeah. Obviously, the show made a real close link between them, that they were both on the island. Yeah. Slade is the main villain of season 2.
Slade!
Yeah. There's been lots of different things, kind of multimedia, that have positioned Green Arrow and Deathstroke as adversaries to each other. Again, I would never call Deathstroke a Green Arrow villain, but it's not a surprise that Green Arrow ends up in that story.
Yeah.
However, I still hold to this. I know he shows up in a Titans book or whatever, but really, Deathstroke is a Nightwing villain. Like, even though he mostly showed up in the context of the book Teen Titans, we had this discussion about like a true villain, is the counterpoint of your hero in some way or in a few ways. When you look at like Deathstroke and Beast Boy, like, are they counterpoints? Deathstroke and Donna Troy, are they counterpoints? I mean, a little, I guess.
Yeah.
Deathstroke and Nightwing, there's a lot, both as kind of these like sort of independent, agents, sort of with their own codes, but guided by passion, intense training, martial artists, all, et cetera, all these things. So if Dick isn't in a Deathstroke year one story, it's not that it doesn't make sense, because Deathstroke already exists by the time he encounters the Titans, and he has this vendetta, and Judas Contract happens, and all this kind of stuff. But it does feel like you at least need to hint at it. Mm-hmm. So even if chronologically, maybe it doesn't make sense to have Nightwing in there for a year one Deathstroke story, it feels like you got to like wink at it.
Sure.
I don't know if that happens or not, because I haven't read it.
Fair.
So in that way, it might make sense that Green Arrow is in there instead, because that's another character, and thank God it's not just fucking Batman.
Yeah.
That is kind of positioned as like maybe one of his first like hero adversaries. But I would hope that at the end of that arc, you sort of cast a light forward and be like, but Nightwing is going to be the guy. Because Dark Crisis leans into it, and I fucking love Josh Williamson for that. Say what you will about the event as a whole, but the idea that it basically comes down to Slade and Dick for the fate of like every like that Dark Crisis solidified a thing I have believed forever, that I've kind of like fought for, and other people disagree with me or whatever. But it's like Slade and Dick are arch enemies. Mm-hmm. They are the pairing. Yeah, Dick's got Blockbuster. He's got like other villains and shit. But like Deathstroke and Nightwing are the binary.
Yes.
And I love that that's in Dark Crisis.
I love that.
Yeah. It's probably not in Deathstroke Year One if it's not in there.
So you agree?
Because chronologically, it probably doesn't make sense.
But it should have been Nightwing and not Green Arrow.
Narratively, Nightwing is a stronger adversary.
Yeah.
But again, if we're imagining like Deathstroke has been a mercenary for years, and then he meets like he's not fighting 4-year-old Dick Grayson. You know what I mean? Like, so chronologically, it doesn't make sense. But narratively, Dick is always a stronger choice than Ollie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question from the Multi Sanchez, who asks, is Superman in Frank Miller's Superman Year One meant to be the same Superman from The Dark Knight Returns? I stopped reading it after issue 1, and I've seen covers for later issues that had DKR Batman on them. Also, what's Frank Miller's deal with Superman?
Easy question first.
Okay.
Superman Year One does absolutely take place in the sort of Miller verse, the same universe as The Dark Knight Returns and All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, etc., etc., etc. Yes, that is in the Frank Miller DC universe. Superman Year One, good lord. This is a Superman that joins the fucking military.
What?
Yep. And I believe in the first issue, there's an attempted gang rape of Lana Lang.
What?
Yep. Not.
Fucking Frank Miller.
For no reason. It doesn't need to be in there. Superman.
Thank God Frank Miller and Alan Moore never got together.
I think Superman has like a. Except Alan Moore understood Superman. Yeah. Alan Moore's Superman is incredible.
Sure. I just mean...
I know what you mean. Because there's other Alan Moore books and you're like, Alan. I totally know what you mean. But what else happened? I think Superman basically says, like, you know what I do to bullies? I beat them up. He's like kind of like almost like a might makes right.
Okay.
Kind of thing. I mean, here's the thing. Frank Miller is clearly deeply distrustful of Superman.
Yes.
The whole point in The Dark Knight Returns is that Superman is like a stooge.
Yeah.
He's like a propagandist, like vaguely fascist stooge.
Yeah.
Who defers his own even like moral authority to like answering to the whims of a government, even if it's corrupt. I think it's maybe not a total surprise when you look at like who are like the two big characters, the biggest characters that Miller is known for. And it's like Batman and Daredevil. And it's like two guys who more or less aren't superpowered, who more or less train themselves. It's like a person versus institutions versus you know what I mean? Like, and Superman to Miller is like the symbol of the institution.
Yeah.
You know, I think it would be disingenuous to say that he hates Superman, but he doesn't respect him.
Yeah.
That is 100% true and clear. And I should point out, totally within his rights as an artist, but that also doesn't mean we have to like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's wrong for exploring that idea, but the way he does stuff is just so unappealing that it's like, if there was a kernel of an interesting idea here, we got it once in The Dark Knight Returns, and we don't need to go back to this. Because truly, Superman Year One is like, he's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
The only thing that was slightly interesting about it, I think, is the idea that he like, I mean, this has also been done better in other places, but that he feels alone and alien. If I recall, he's like he might be older when Krypton explodes in this one.
Interesting.
So he has more memory, and he's like smarter, and the thing we talk about that I like in Superman Earth 1 that he is more intelligent. I think in this one, but Miller uses it to like make him more disaffected as opposed to being more inspiring or more whatever. He's like he is this kind of like distant loner kind of thing. It's bad. If you like Superman, don't read Superman Year One. Yeah. If you like Frank Miller, I guess read it.
If you don't like Superman, don't read it.
Yeah, I'd argue that too. Yeah, ultimately the problem is that Frank Miller is just an old white guy who hasn't changed his style of writing since the 80s.
Yeah.
And where other people like Alan Moore have gone back and said, "Oh, I really shouldn't have done that to Barbara Gordon," or like I regret, like people who like change their opinions or learn new things. Frank Miller goes, "Nah, I think we had it right in '85."
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird and messed up.
Yep, absolutely. Next question comes from Dan Hummer, 97. My name is Dan Hummer, and I'm here to say I'm born in 97, and that's the cool way.
Look.
Who asks, would you consider Aquaman Time and Tide a Year One story? Which version of his origin do you prefer?
So Time and Tide is a 4-issue miniseries that bridges the gap between Aquaman Volume 4 and Aquaman Volume 5. And Aquaman Volume 5 is very famously Hook Hand Aquaman.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen until issue 2 or 3 of Volume 5.
Okay.
But Time and Tide kind of bridges the gap. In Time and Tide, you are with Aquaman, and he's writing basically like his memoir.
Yeah.
As part of like, I think he has maybe like his mother's journals or something, but he's writing his story, and it's their way to like retcon a little bit of like Aquaman's origin.
Sure, yeah.
Now here's the thing, based on the sort of vague definition of Year One that I've given, this is not so much a Year One story. I'd call this more a secret origin story, because it is not really about him being Aquaman. There's one scene with the Flash, and it's like the first time someone calls him Aquaman, but then we just keep flashing back further. We see him as a kid. This is the story in which we learn that he was raised by dolphins for a bit.
Yeah.
To the point where like he kind of thinks he's a dolphin.
Yeah.
Like they're teaching him they're like, you can't nurse anymore. Which no more dolphin milk for you.
Yikes.
You have to learn how to catch a fish. And he's like surprised when he uses his hands. He's like, "Oh shit, I have hands." In that story, at one point, he's like, "See that dolphin over there? I think she likes me. I'm sort of into her."
Yikes.
And the other dolphins have to be like, "Actually,
you're human?
Sorry, but we all stick with our own race."
Yeah.
It's Time and Tide is about
time for you to go back where you came.
Time and Tide is about the dangers of race mixing.
Jesus.
No, but they do kind of step in and go like, "Can't fuck a dolphin."
Yeah. What hath we wrought?
So in that story, like he's raised by dolphins for a bit. Porm. That's where we get Porm. Yes. He spends time with like the Inuit.
Oh.
There's a retcon kind of origin for Orm in there too. But again, it's more of like a secret origins thing. A lot, we do get a bit of glimpses of him as Aquaman in early career or when he was king. Like it's sort of an odd story in that we're sort of flashing back a bunch of different things, but the significant changes are to his origin, not to his early adventures. You know what I mean? Like we see early adventures or things like that, but the biggest changes are to like where he comes from. He was like abandoned as a child, that someone, like all this, he's like left on the rocks or some shit as a baby, That's where the big changes are. So I'd call it more of a secret origin than a Year One.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Last question for Instagram comes from Keegan Steedman, who asks, what are your thoughts on Paradox's origin being a part of Flash Year One? And do you think they should use the character not only more often, but as a threat against the Justice League? I sure as hell do.
So Paradox is a character that was introduced during the Flash Year One arc, which is part of the Williamson run on Flash. In the Year One arc, basically, Flash and Turtle from the future start affecting Flash's first year as the Flash.
He wasn't hanging with Vinny Chase?
Yeah, well, yeah. Vince is doing the movie. Yeah. And we got to get the band back together.
Oh, yeah.
We need E. We need Johnny Drama. We need Ari and Lloyd.
My God. Wow, you remember them all.
I'm a little, it won't surprise you to learn that Entourage hit right in my bro phase.
Yeah. You know who I saw watching it the other day?
Who?
Matt.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh, right. So basically this like alternate future where the Turtle is taken over and stuff like that. Flash is like one of his earliest villains.
Oh, wow.
It's affecting the past, and Year One Flash has to help future Flash, and in the course of this they accidentally remove this guy from the timeline, and he
Like Turtle?
this other guy.
Oh, okay.
And this guy becomes Paradox. He becomes a living Paradox, and he has sort of the power of kind of like
Yes.
like fucking with paradoxes and shit like that. And he shows up as this like big monstrous creature, and Flash has to stop him. I think he teams up with Thawne to stop him, even because this character's too powerful or whatever. It's an interesting, I like the idea. It's a slight inversion on the Year One thing where it's actually, we're going back and like changing your first year.
Yeah, which
like,
is very Flash-like.
Such a Flash thing. And it's not a Flashpoint thing. It's not like it's just a Flash story. And I love that about it. I think it's a lot of fun. Paradox as a character, though, I mean, here's the thing. It's comics. He will come back.
Yeah.
I'm fine if he doesn't, though. I like him in the context of this, and they end up undoing him, basically. He gets his family back or whatever the thing is. And he's sort of undone at the end of that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Do I need him to fight the Justice League? Like, yeah, he's a big bad, but like, not really. I'm actually kind of fine with him just being contained to that. Will he be? Of course not. At some point, someone will be like, oh yeah, Paradox, and he'll come back. But
sure.
For now, it's not like he came back again, even in that run. He hasn't shown up at, like, we don't talk about him. Like, it's not like it's only a matter of time. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. I'm actually quite okay with Paradox sort of being contained to this, like, weird, we've had to tie a knot off on this weird loop that happened to my Year One. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we got to leave that there, and we'll just move forward from there. But I kind of like it like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, we're leaving Instagram and heading on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
First question comes from Noddle Noob Master 69.
Nice.
Who asks,
hell yeah.
If we were to get a Green Lantern Year One, which Green Lantern would you most likely want to read about? Personally, I would have to pick Chip.
So again, I'm just going to reset the parameters here, because we talk a lot about Green Lantern Earth One.
Yes.
Which is obviously its own thing.
Yes.
A Year One story. I know I said Batman Year One is kind of in the Millerverse or whatever, and so is Superman Year One. Yeah. But he's always just doing his own thing.
Yes.
In general, a Year One story is you're contributing it to canon.
Yeah.
We're exploring the previously unexplored details of this early stage. Yeah. Early stage, canon, main continuity at least, and not necessarily origin.
Yeah.
Who's a Green Lantern you'd want to see?
Mean, I think that there's probably two ways that I would go about this. My knee-jerk reaction is to not actually focus on a single lantern and do it more about like the first year of the Corps.
Sure, right, yeah, sure.
And I think that's more interesting because the Corps is all about the Corps.
Green Lantern Corps Year One.
Yeah. And I think that is more interesting to me.
That's fun, yeah.
Because it's like, how do they develop the rules and the sectors, and like how does that respond to what the Manhunters were, and like how does I think like Earth One touches on some of those things, but it's more about like this like old thing that they refined. And
Yeah, right.
I like the idea of, and it's kind of almost like what we were gonna get with that TV show that sort of.
Well, maybe that TV show was also supposed to take place across like 6 different time. I don't know what was happening with that.
But that's probably my initial. Otherwise, Kilowog.
Oh, that's fun and tragic. His planet gets destroyed.
Yeah, I know, but I just think he has an interesting
Yeah.
sort of story, and then watching him sort of become the guy who has to then eventually like train.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, poozers.
yeah, I like that. I think
Yeah.
that's fun. What about you?
I was going to say Kyle Rayner.
Interesting. Okay.
And specifically because he becomes Green Lantern. I mean, I guess we kind of get year one because we follow him from the moment that he gets a ring.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just a dumb answer because we kind of already got it. But the reason that I picked him was just because like he's the only one. The core is gone. You know, he has to set up his own rules. He has to learn as he goes. Like Batman has to learn as he goes. Like Nightwing has to learn as he goes. Like he's the one Green Lantern that doesn't really have much of a support system.
Sure.
You know, he joins a team and they kind of help, but he's like, I'm on my own. You know, but I guess the unraveling of that idea is that we got it, and it happens immediately after Emerald Twilight.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Just Takes One Bad Day.
Oh, yikes!
Yikes.
Wow. Thanks for writing in.
Yeah. Hope everything's all right.
I hope my answer's good enough.
Yeah. Would you rather a Superman Year One story where it's Clark using his powers in Smallville?
Oh, okay.
Or do you think it would have a more interesting story if Superman Year One was Clark's first year in Metropolis? I mean, if we're talking about the TV show, I would say Smallville, but
Sure, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though, too. Like, post-Crisis, this was the big change, is that pre-Crisis, Superboy was just young Superman.
yes.
He had adventures.
Yeah.
He would save the day.
Yeah.
He would do stuff as Superboy.
Yeah.
Superboy is the inspiration for the Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah.
So he has adventures with them, too.
Yeah.
Post-Crisis, the change was made that he was not adventuring as Superman until he was an adult living in Metropolis.
Yeah.
Superman kind of reveals himself to the world,
Yeah.
and people go like, "Oh, cool," and that's it. Doomsday Clock sets up the idea that because Superboy was removed, that affected the Legion and the Legion's existence.
Yeah.
And Superboy being removed was a result of the Justice Society not existing anymore.
Sure.
Like, there's other layers to that. But so to me, Superman Year One is difficult.
Yeah.
As far as the post-crisis thing goes, obviously it's your first year in Metropolis, and it's the actual balance. Like, it's not, you didn't just get there like, I got a job somewhere I can keep my ear to the ground. Like, you're in it.
Yeah.
You're like, Lois doesn't give you the time of day, but you work there every day.
Yeah.
You know, all this kind of stuff. Like, you're in it. What is Lex up to? What is that's interesting. But do I like that as his year one? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I like him having been Superboy.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, continuity wise, if you're in that post-crisis thing, then like a good year one story is like, I'm in Metropolis, I am Superman, I'm an adult, and now here's my adventures, my first adventures in superheroing. And I think that you can make a great story out of that. But I think I'd prefer him as Superboy.
I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm pitching is Superboy year one, not Superman year one.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's just, you can have your cake and eat it too, I suppose.
I think it's more interesting to have like a full-grown adult who's like a representation of what Hope should be, and rather than like a kid who you've been watching slowly become Superman is less.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I like it though. I like the idea that it's like, because you go like, here's the thing I get hung up on is the like, I like Smallville, or at least the first few seasons of it, a lot.
Yeah.
But something bothers me about the idea of only helping people secretly. The thing with Superman You're supposed to inspire people. Now, it's fine for him to have a bit of an arc to figure that out.
But
I don't know that it should take that long. Like, I think you can have Superboy adventures. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I just love
you know what I'm talking about?
Kent's, like it's his parents that are like, no, like, we are your parents and we're protecting you. You can't do that. And I love that reasoning.
Yeah.
To be like, you cannot be Superman because that's not safe, and like to have him to prove it to himself and learn who he is. Like, I think that just there's such like a resemblance of like maturity and.
I mean, here's the thing: you can do it both ways. It's not.
Nice.
There's not a. I don't think it's a wrong choice.
No, for sure.
To have Superman.
We just have preferences.
Be Superman.
Yeah.
But I think I really have like come down on the side of like I like Superboy. I like the idea of Superboy.
I like having a Superboy.
I think it's narratively so much messier than than the post-crisis Superman. Post-crisis Superman is such a clean idea. And if you're rebooting after a crisis, I totally get why they did that. It makes so much goddamn sense to do it that way. But I think I just like the Superboy thing better.
I mean, I like that we still get a Superboy. Like, I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean.
I do like, I want both, and it's reality. And I think the way that we have it now is how I get both.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Next question.
Jesus, you almost ended the podcast. All it takes is one bad day. He was right.
Oh my God, but he wasn't about him.
Oh,
he's a prophet. Wrong podcast. We're leaving Reddit and heading over.
That's for our DS9 podcast. Tears of the Podfits.
Oh my God.
That's our DS9 podcast.
I mean, this is going to end at some point.
Yeah, call me Kai Reed.
Whoa. I'm Quar Richard.
I'm Quar Richard. Don't forget to go to Patreon. We've got a Patreon.
Yeah, money. Oh, those New York aliens.
Those New York Ferengi. Joke from another podcast.
Yeah.
It's all a crossover, baby.
You gotta live on both. We're leaving Reddit and we're heading on over to the Ducks Court.
Oh, fuck. Shit.
Yep.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I have a song for this.
Oh, there
and
we go.
I've completely forgotten it. Yeah.
Gone.
Hang on.
Okay, I'm hanging.
Hang the fuck on,
Don't have
Richard.
to tell me. I'm hanging.
If you don't fucking hang on.
I'm hanging on so fucking tight.
Yeah, hang on for me.
Yeah, oh my God. My grip couldn't be tighter.
Someday some ducks gonna want to scold you around and make you cry. Two ducks scolders, ducks scold and make you cry. Don't you know? It's the ducks and the scold. Things a duck scold you, and the ducks scold for one more scold.
Hold on for one more score.
Clearly, I said the word "hold on" enough that I was the only song I could think of. Yeah,
love it. All right, first question for the Ducks.
Nailed it. Fucking nailed it too.
Good.
Oh man.
Add it to the list of
Add
songs.
it to the list of amazing parodies we're making.
First question comes from Lilith, who asks, where do Batman Year One and Superman Year One take place in the current multiverse? I know the whole Millerverse used to be explicitly separate from Prime Earth, but it seems like the many changes to Hypertime and the multiverse have really muddied the waters.
So the Millerverse was at one point Earth 31.
Yeah.
However, I'm looking it up right now because not only have we had the Multiversity guidebook, but since Dark Crisis, we had Dark Crisis Big Bang that had a new sort of like a roster of Earths.
Sure.
I need the Earth list. Here we go. Let's see here. Details the new multiverse. Where did we go here? All right. So sorry, I'm pulling this up because I don't remember offhand. Good Lord. Do I look beautiful? I'm just like resting testing this microphone while I'm using both hands.
Kind of using your titties to hold them.
So Earth 31 right now is home to the pirate versions of heroes, like Leatherwing and stuff like that.
Psycho pirate.
Qu'est-ce que c'est? Oh boy. Sorry, I'm scanning through here just to see if the Dark Knight Returns comes up on this or not. Commanding last boy on Earth, deceased, generations, nope. Third Knights of Steel, DC Superhero goes to Controversy. I don't think it has a designated Earth. I think the Millerverse is sort of... I mean, technically, it exists as a parallel Earth, because everything does, because the Infinite Earths is back in current continuity. But which Earth it is, that is...
yet to be seen.
A lingering question. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it used to be Earth 31, and I think that was before the New 52. That might have been, like, during Final Crisis or something like that. So, it is its own Earth. It's out there somewhere. I don't know what its designation is, because as of right now, I can't pick it out of this list. Interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Probably for the best, frankly.
Yeah.
Frank Millery.
Yeah.
You hear me, Frank? You old fuck.
Wow, you really stuck it to him.
Yeah, nailed him.
He'll hear us.
Yeah.
Next
He's
question.
listening. He's like, well, what did I do?
What did I do?
Now I'm going to make a story where the Flash exposes himself. That's why he's called the Flash. I'm Frank Miller. There are no treasured memories. Not for me.
Next question comes from Butt Fart Butt, who asks, what do you think of the relationship between Ollie and Harley in Injustice Year One?
I love it. So Injustice, the game, so, Mortal Kombat with DC characters, takes place in an alternate Earth where Metropolis gets exploded and Joker gets killed by Superman and Superman becomes a tyrant, etc., etc. They made a series of comic books that take place in the 5 years between when Metropolis explodes and Superman kills Joker and where you are in the game. Because it's been 5 years. Superman's regime has been in place for X number of years or whatever. And they made a series, and so each year got like whatever it is number of issues. Yeah. So there's Injustice Year 1, Year 2, Year 3, Year 4, Year 5. And then Injustice 2 got like a Year 1. Like there's so many Injustice comics. Wow. It's... I would say just on volume, it's the most fleshed out alternate Earth in like beyond saying like all the Golden Age books are Earth 2. You know what I mean? Like, other than saying something like that.
I guess they're popular then,
super popular.
Yeah.
Written by Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Like amazing writer.
Yeah.
And in those stories, because Harley obviously she loses Joker early in the story, and she's working with Batman, at a certain point. But she develops this like fun relationship with Ollie and Dinah that might actually be in the second one. Might actually be Injustice 2. No, it's Injustice. At any rate, the point is that like she has this like fight with Green Arrow. It's where you get that line where he's like, how did you get into the Arrow Cave or whatever? And she's like, why don't you call it the Quiver?
Yeah.
And he's like, that is actually better. They have that kind of moment, or she fights Black Canary, and then Black Canary's like, I gotta puke for a second. She's like, okay. And she like waits, Black Canary pukes, and you find out Black Canary's pregnant or whatever. They have such a fun relationship. I actually really love the three of them, Harley, Ollie, and Dinah, for no other reason than that.
Weird that you have to state that.
I threw that in there thinking like, isn't it funny to like say that? But now there's no way I can back out of that without it looking like that's what I think.
Yep.
Fucking audio medium, no fucking visual. All my visual cues to be like, what a joke.
I'm glad that you do those on a thing that you know is always audio.
Fuck.
Anyways, let's go to the last question from JK.
Jesus fucking.
All right, fucking settle down. What's your favorite year one story? Also, what villain would you want to see get a year one story? I think we just talked
Well,
about
you said Waller.
Yeah.
You wanted.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, a villain. I'm going to answer that one first. A villain I'd want to see get a year one story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is obvious for me, but it's like.
Manta?
I was going to say like the Rogues.
Oh, like, yeah.
I fucking
Captain
love.
Cold,
I fucking love the Rogues.
Yeah.
But the thing is, without being called year one, we have explored a lot of maybe early years of villains.
Yeah.
But who would I want? That's it has to. I think it has to be a villain that has like a motivation beyond like. The thing with the Rogues is there's like a reason for them to have continuing adventures.
Yeah.
They're always after the next score or whatever.
Yeah.
And to have a year one implies there's a trajectory to the thing. When you're a hero, it's like, I must eradicate crime. We know you never will, but there's a trajectory. If you're just like a hero that's like, my goal is kill Superman, like how many times can you just watch someone try to kill Superman in 1 year?
You know who would be interesting? Mr. Freeze.
Sure.
Somebody who has like a clear goal and watching him sort of like go into crime to get that.
Especially, you know, to blow out the Heart of Ice thing, you know, in that episode of the animated series that gives us the modern origin of Mr. Freeze. His personality goes when he goes, which is such a Batman thing.
Yeah.
Joker coming out of the vat of acid or whatever.
Yeah.
It totally works. But it would be interesting to see more of the slide in that first year of like I'm still a person, but then the more he's remains physically refrigerated, the colder he also gets. The more that he sees that no one will help him, the more the Batman just tries to fight him. The colder he give us that transition between Victor Freeze and Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be an interesting.
That's a solid one. I like that one.
Solid as ice.
Iceman Customs? You put it in a block of ice?
That's right.
Oh my god.
God, I'm good.
And what's my favorite year one story? I mean, Batman Year One.
Yeah, I mean,
is really good.
It's very good.
You got to give props to Frank Miller on some things.
Unfortunately,
and Batman Year One is one of them.
Yeah,
it has that amazing speech that like the feast is over or whatever. Like you like that. Ugh, it's so fucking good. It's just tarnished by the rest of Miller, but Batman Year One is exceptional.
Absolutely. Well, that was the last question.
Okay.
Which means it's time for you to send in questions for next week's episode.
Yeah, I don't have a theme for the episode, but we'll post that where we post it.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a special guest.
Yeah.
For next week's episode.
Are we?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Aren't we?
We are.
Because it looked like they said, yes, that's fine.
Yes, but then I didn't follow up. So, yes.
Okay.
Probably.
We are Canada's funniest podcast.
Yeah, not Canada's best or most organized podcast.
I mean, we couldn't win that one.
One way to find out.
There is even rigged. People would be like, no, no, we got to rig it back.
They'd call it. Yeah. So you could send us questions for that when it comes out.
Yes,
and our Facebook.
Hey, wait a minute. You said you'd have a game
Twitter.
this week.
I did. Crazy thing that happened.
What happened?
So my computer lost it.
What?
Yeah.
On its own?
Like, you know
your
how
computer, like the singularity happened? It's making decisions
I was
now?
fucking around with Chat GPT or whatever.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
And it was like, let me help you get rid of some extra space on your computer.
Right.
And it got rid of the game that I had.
Jesus,
provided.
can you get it back?
No, I mean, I was lucky to even get that episode back.
Do you think
that we
you can get it
almost
back for
lost.
next week when we have a special guest?
Ooh, great question. Hopefully, let's find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to bother our guest with the game. We don't typically do the games. With
I
guests on.
absolutely want to bother our guest. They've been on before.
Yeah, a couple times.
Special guest next week.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for that to be like, they've been on before. It's kind of undercutting the
Also, like
excitement for
one
next
of
week.
one of the bigger guests that we can.
Yeah, and one of our better ones.
Yeah.
Whatever, they're back.
Guests. Yeah, it's not fucking Chad Bokelman or something.
So mean. Why so mean?
You can send in questions for that episode to our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
to our Twitter,
At Dr. DC.
to our Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
email,
DrDCPodcast@gmail.com.
jump on our subreddit.
r/Dr_DC.
Doc phone is open.
208-917-3238.
208-917-DCEU.
If you're nasty.
We are lurking on TikTok.
At Dr. DC.
We did put you made a TikTok recently.
Yeah, one.
Yeah.
I should make another one.
Yeah. It was, hey, we're at this thing. I won't be talking about it.
See ya.
Yeah. Literally, it was just like, this is me signing off.
Yeah. It's been good.
Yeah. We have a website.
DrDCPodcast.com.ca.
Why don't you give us a 5-star review on wherever you get this podcast?
Yeah.
Or on Facebook. If it's on Facebook and Apple Podcast, then we will read it. If not, just send it to us in an email. And
Yeah, take a screenshot or whatever.
Yeah, baby.
Because otherwise, we don't get notifications from all over the internet.
No, unfortunately. If you really want to know what photo Reed was almost going to show me, and
Or
maybe
might-
still
or
will,
might, I don't know. It's deranged.
I'm very excited for this.
I would say, if I show it to you,
Yeah.
it's the biggest transgression of our friendship.
What? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Did you fuck Brian?
I told you. I fucking warned you that I would take everything from you.
It's a poster of you like doing
It's a poster. I had an artist do it.
No. It's you doing like a class on podcasting and not involved.
Yeah.
That's what the photo is.
Yeah. Fuck Brian.
Yeah.
10 tips to podcasting. Yeah.
You might be able to hear more about this on our Patreon.
Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Discord, our awesome fan community on Discord. And at the higher levels, you get bonus episodes, theme pulls, all sorts of fun stuff that helps to support us.
Also, Us is another podcast.
Wow. Jesus. That was barely language. Ghost Facers, a supernatural rewatch. We're going through every episode of the CW Supernatural. We're almost done season 6.
Uh-huh.
We talk about real world monster
That's
lore,
right.
behind the scenes stuff about the show. Also, Us is
Another podcast. We done. Ciao, ciao.
adios.
They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.